Good afternoon and welcome to live coverage of the launch of SpaceX CRS-6, the sixth Commercial Resupply Services mission by SpaceX to the International Space Station. This will be the seventh overall flight of a SpaceX Dragon to the space station. This is Falcon launch control, and we are at T-minus 1 hour, 10 minutes, 7 seconds, and counting. Today's launch is scheduled for exactly 4:10 and 41 seconds p.m. Eastern Time from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. You're looking at a beautiful shot of the Falcon 9 rocket with Dragon poised atop. At the time of liftoff, the space station will be flying about 257 miles above Earth, passing over the Great Australian Bight, south of Western Australia. As it was on Monday, today's weather in the Space Coast Central Florida area is dynamic and could possibly play a role during today's countdown. Launch Weather Officer Mike McAleenan, who was forced to call off yesterday's launch attempt because of anvil clouds within 10 nautical miles of Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, is predicting a 60% chance for favorable weather for today's launch. And we'll hear from Mike in about 9 minutes when he updates the SpaceX launch team, which is led by Launch Director Ricky Lim, Launch Conductor Brian Childers, and Chief Engineer Hans Koenigsmann. Hans provided an update to Launch Director Ricky Lim just a few moments ago that the team is working no anomalies, no technical issues whatsoever today. And the preliminary forecast, at least as of now, looks better than it did yesterday. There is more stability in the atmosphere, less overall moisture, and the eastern sea breeze has been prevailing. There have been occasional pop-up showers within about 30 nautical miles of Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, but nothing at all comparable to what we were looking at yesterday, at least as of yet. As the afternoon heating progresses, and over the next hour and 8 minutes, we will hope that the weather continues to trend the way that it has been. The modified SpaceX Commercial Resupply Services contract with NASA calls for 15 SpaceX missions to the space station, and again, this will be the seventh trip for a Dragon spacecraft to the station and the sixth of the 15 CRS flights. Dragon is filled with more than 4,300 pounds of supplies and payloads, including very important materials that will support science and research investigations occurring at 44. With the launch today, Dragon will spend about 5 weeks at the station and return to Earth on May 21st, filled with cargo including crew supplies, hardware and computer resources, science experiments, and space station hardware. Again, Dragon is the only operational vehicle in the fleet of vehicles that help service the International Space Station with cargo that can return cargo to Earth. RP-1, the rocket-grade kerosene, has been loaded into both stages of the Falcon 9 rocket. Liquid oxygen, the oxidizer, also loaded in. Once again, there are no technical issues being worked. Weather so far is green across the board. There are no weather constraints. We're about 1 hour and 6 minutes away from the liftoff of Falcon 9 and Dragon. This is Falcon Launch Control. This is Falcon Launch Control at 1 hour, 4 minutes, 18 seconds away from liftoff. Once again, no technical issues are being worked. Weather is green. Occasionally you see ice falling off of the stack at the launch pad from the strong back and from the Falcon 9 rocket. There's nothing to be concerned with. They're in the process of continuing to top off liquid oxygen. And you can see the gaseous oxygen venting from the top of the first stage and the top of the second stage, just below the Dragon spacecraft. This cargo mission to the space station once again is all about science, and science payloads will study new ways to possibly counteract the microgravity-induced cell damage seen during spaceflight, the effects of microgravity on the most common cells in bones, gather new insight that could lead to treatments for osteoporosis and muscle wasting conditions, continue studies into astronaut vision changes, and test a new material that could one day be used as a synthetic muscle for robotics explorers of the future. Also making the trip will be a new espresso machine for space station crews. A great way to wake up in the morning, no matter where morning may be. And then after 5 weeks at the station, the Dragon will return to Earth, again with about 3,000 pounds of cargo. Everything remains on track for an on-time liftoff today of SpaceX CRS-6 at 4:10 and 41 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. This is Falcon Launch Control. This is Falcon Launch Control at T-minus 1 hour, 20 seconds and counting. The team at the SpaceX Launch Control Center working no technical issues. 45th Space Wing Weather Officer Mike McAleenan preparing to brief the team on the weather for today's launch.
This is the LWO with the 1 hour range weather briefing. On your video display system, you should see a visible picture containing the entire peninsula of Florida, and that shows a cone of concern for anvils on that cyan areas, and it's looking like there's very few thunderstorms developed so far. We see the west coast sea breeze beginning to migrate east, and we're seeing just one or two storms making it up to a taller cumulonimbus level. But so far, very few anvils themselves have begun to migrate east. With 1 hour to go, they would have to be in that easternmost arc to be within 10 miles during the T0 time frame. So looking much better today as far as thunderstorm coverage and cumulus activity. Zooming in a little closer, you can see the sea breeze has moved to about I-95 area and is continuing to move west. We still have a few remnant clouds over northern Kennedy Space Center, but all the convective activity has diminished along the spaceport and expected to continue just to slowly move inland. We still have some colliding boundaries to our west, so we're still watching the formation of some of those stronger cells that could produce some animals that would drift back towards the Cape. Currently on radar, you can see that so far, none of those convective clouds have developed to show an echo on the radar so far. Again, we'll be watching those at area just to the west towards the Orange County, Brevard County border to see those amber clouds that might drift back towards the coast. Looking aloft, we're looking very good in upper-level winds. We've seen a very good agreement on the balloons, and a max wind has diminished to about 43 knots at about 52,000 feet, and expected to remain around this area for the next hour. Winds at the pad are also well within constraints at a 10 peak 15, and because the sea breeze is now west of the area, you can see winds have switched around to a southeasterly component from the earlier morning south and southwesterly components, so 120 degrees. Temperature also dropped a bit with the sea breeze onset, and we're at 80 degrees at the pad. Expected to remain around that until T0. Solar activity is also well within thresholds and benign, and we are go on all range weather and Falcon 9 commit criteria. Current forecast calls for much of the same to continue with scattered cumulus clouds and mid-level clouds and the broken, thin cirrus clouds that could contain some animals later in towards the T0. Winds will stay out of the southeast at 120 to 130 degrees with 12 peak 17 miles an hour, and will maintain 80 degrees. The concerns remain anvil clouds as a main threat and cumulus clouds that may develop and drift back. If we were to delay to Thursday, we expect much worse conditions with broken conditions at 14,000 and overcast with the anvil clouds, 4 miles with showers and thunderstorms. The difference is that the winds in the low levels are from the southwest. That would keep the sea breeze over the spaceport, and activity of thunderstorms and rain showers would be right over the pad, making for cumulus, lightning, and anvil clouds. Probability of violation for a Thursday launch would be 60%. And that's all for the briefing, unless there's any questions.
So a much better forecast so far today from Mike McAleenan, our launch weather officer. We're green on the board, across the board. No launch weather constraints. The sea breeze continues to be coming from the southeast. No anvil clouds in the area. And we'll, of course, keep our eyes on the conditions as we proceed through the rest of the countdown. We're at T-minus 55 minutes, 32 seconds and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control. This is Falcon Launch Control at T-minus 53 minutes and counting. And once again, no technical issues being worked by the SpaceX Launch Control team in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Weather remains green. Everything is go for liftoff today at 4:10 and 41 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. This is a key time for American spaceflight. NASA is moving out on a parallel path for human spaceflight exploration with U.S. commercial companies such as SpaceX providing access to low Earth orbit for cargo and soon for crew. And meanwhile, at the same time, NASA is preparing deep space exploration missions to an asteroid and on to Mars. Just over 2 weeks ago, on Friday, March 27th, the first one-year crew for the International Space Station launched. NASA astronaut Scott Kelly, along with Roscosmos cosmonaut Mikhail Kornienko, are spending just under a year living and working aboard the space station. Their one-year mission is very important in NASA's journey to Mars. And let's learn more about it.
Human beings want to go to Mars.
It's a fabulous destination for us to explore. It has so many scientific questions that we could answer, and it might actually be the first place where we find life beyond the atmosphere of our own Earth.
We're already working on what to do when we get there and how to protect the people who will make the trip.
We're doing quite a bit now, actually, in many different fields, medical, engineering, social sciences, to understand what we have to send people to Mars.
And much of that work is in progress right now on board the International Space Station. Is up in the air because they're weightless.
You may develop motion sickness. You will definitely have fluid shifts into your chest and head. You will lose muscle strength. You will lose bone strength.
Take 5 times as long.
Mars missions may take 30 months start to finish. So I don't think it's a bad idea to start getting some longer experience on the International Space Station to give us an idea of what's awaiting us on these future very long flights.
So the station partners are taking the next step. For the first time ever on this vehicle, a pair of crew members is going to space for a year.
My first flight was very rewarding. There are certain times that are, fun. It is very challenging to live on the space station for 6 months. If we're going to go to Mars, we need to understand how the human body reacts in space for longer periods of time.
Человечество по орбите все время летать не будет. Нужно осваивать новые планеты, нужно осваивать Солнечную систему. Это неизбежно. И этот полет как бы первый шажочек вот на этом направлении.
Station science during this year will continue to study bone and muscle weakness and psychological, like gauging how being weightless for many, many months impacts fine motor skills and restful sleep, and evaluating readaptation to gravity.
After the astronauts land in Central Asia, after the one-year mission, we'll take they can and cannot do after the long period of spaceflight.
And the crew will use equipment that's already on board to try to quantify the fluid shift that is the prime suspect in vision changes, and maybe do something about it.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could change that fluid distribution in spaceflight and make measurements of the shape of the eye and other function and see if that really is the cause and the effect?
At the same time, Kelly and Kornienko and their crewmates will help with the development of technologies that will need to be improved if future deep space missions are to succeed.
The International Space Station is a test bed. It allows us to test our communications methods, perfect them, so that we know how to handle large delays later on.
Station robotics on ISS are developing tools that are going to assist crew members for future missions, especially long-duration missions to Mars. We're going to assist the crew members by having the robots do the repetitive tasks and also do the tasks that are in the dangerous environment that we don't want to subject our crew members to.
When we go to sit down and finally design the new next-generation regenerative life support for spacecraft to take us to Mars, we'll be able to draw on all the operational experience we've gotten with the space station systems to improve the system and make a more reliable and user-friendly system for the crew.
While fostering international cooperation and providing benefits to people on Earth right now, and destination for commercial vehicles and research, the International Space Station is enabling future space exploration. The trip to Mars starts right here.
So, very exciting times for NASA and the International Space Station and our journey to Mars. About to begin another very exciting journey today in about 46 minutes, 20 seconds and counting with the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. No technical issues are being worked, and unlike yesterday, we have no anvil clouds or any other weather patterns moving into the cone of concern. And here at Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, tomorrow will mark the 5th anniversary of President Obama's visit and his speech from the Operations and Checkout building at Kennedy Space Center, where he announced his vision for NASA from the high bay there at the Operations and Checkout building. And since then, Kennedy Space Center workforce has helped to transform Kennedy into a 21st century multi-user spaceport, regularly helping to launch to low Earth orbit and beyond. And the center has been modernizing infrastructure across the board for more cost-effective operations and serving multiple customers. These improvements include upgrades to the facilities such as the Vehicle Assembly Building, the Mobile Launcher, the Crawler Transporter, the Launch Complex 39B area in support of Orion, the SLS, and Advanced Exploration Systems. And as this is occurring here at Kennedy, NASA continues to develop the Orion crew vehicle, the SLS rocket, the Space Launch System, and exploration ground systems that one day soon will be sending astronauts on trips to low Earth orbit. And the heavy lift SLS will be more powerful than any previously built rocket. It'll be capable of sending humans aboard Orion to an asteroid and on to Mars. SpaceX and Boeing are a part of the commercial crew transportation capability contracts being developed at Kennedy with the goal of certifying safe, reliable, and cost-effective access to and from low Earth orbit by the end of 2017. So a lot is happening at the spaceport along the Space Coast. And again, more excitement less than 45 minutes away, as SpaceX will be launching supplies and payloads, including key materials that will directly support some of the more than 250 science and research investigations that will occur during Scott Kelly's one-year mission on the space station. We're at T-minus 43 minutes, 35 seconds and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control. at T-minus 42 minutes, 28 seconds and counting. And for those of you who were watching the New Horizons briefing and just joining us, we are at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida looking at a live shot of Space Launch Complex 40, where the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, venting gaseous oxygen from both the first and second stages, and the Dragon spacecraft atop are poised and ready for liftoff for a journey to the International Space Station today. The launch control team from SpaceX and the Launch Control Center is working no technical problems. Launch Weather Officer Mike McAleenan briefed the team just moments ago that they are working no weather issues at this time. Yesterday, Anvil clouds entered into a 10 nautical mile circle and precluded liftoff, but there is nothing in the cone of concern today to worry us. We are expecting the weather pattern to steer clear. We'll, of course, watch for the science and portion, which is very important for science. CASIS is facilitating the space-based research and creating more public awareness about the national lab research and making space science more accessible to the world. We have an update on the CASIS-sponsored research that's flying aboard the Dragon spacecraft, and we'd like to show that to you now. Dragon flies through the blackness of space on its way to a meeting with the International Space Station.
This is the 6th resupply mission by SpaceX to send investigations to the International Space Station. On this particular mission, there are a variety of CASIS-sponsored research projects that are going up, ranging from life sciences, physical sciences, material sciences, some also spanning from the commercial sectors as well. In particular, on this launch, we're going to be focusing on a protein crystal growth experiment by Merck is interested in using the space station as a mechanism for better understanding how to develop therapies that can improve life on Earth.
Merck Research Laboratories is conducting crystallization experiments of 2 investigational medicines. This is in collaboration with NASA and CASIS. And in crystallization, the rate at which these molecules come together to produce a crystal affects the quality of the crystal that you get. You know, typically I can perform in a laboratory thousands of experiments here on Earth, but I don't have the same control of the variables that I would have doing experiments on the International Space Station.
In the presence of microgravity, those particles, because they're not sedimenting out, can form over a slower, longer period. And that seems to lead to larger, better quality crystals that we're bringing back from space. The benefits that we're trying to pull out of this research are really benefits for people living and breathing down here on the Earth.
This technology has been used in the fields of HIV, hepatitis C, a number of cholesterol-reducing drugs, and we're just at the beginning of a new era of being able to do biomedical research that improves the overall health of our patients.
So Space Station is an interesting vehicle. It's not only a great platform for a broad range of research and technology demonstrations, it's also a place to learn how to partner together with new and unique users.
And the way you do that best is to develop a business case for corporations and companies to use low Earth orbit for various space-based enterprises.
It's been a pleasure for me to work with CASIS, and it's been an ongoing collaborative process to work out the experiments to the benefit of the research that we're doing.
The role of CASIS is to enable a new era in space-based research on the International Space Station, in particular through the National Laboratory. By working with commercial companies, by working with academia, non-government organizations, we are opening up channels that previously were never available.
What they may learn, hopefully, it will be something very valuable to their business model, which is going to then directly translate into something that could be valuable to humankind. And that's what the National Lab is all about.
Back live at Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Launch Pad 40 is operated by SpaceX, but for many years was used by the Titan program. It's a historic facility. It's been in operation for a long time here at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, and in 2008, SpaceX took over to launch the Falcon rockets. The center of Space Launch Complex 40 is composed of the concrete launch pad and apron and the flame exhaust duct. And surrounding the pad, you see the 4 Lightning towers, fuel storage tanks, and the integration hangar. Before every launch, the Falcon 9 stages and the Dragon are housed inside the hangar, where Dragon is packed with cargo, and then a crane lift system moves the Falcon 9 into a transporter erector system so that Dragon can be mated to the Falcon 9 rocket. And then the combined vehicle is rolled from the hangar to the launch pad on fixed rails before launch. SpaceX Launch Control Center is also at Cape Canaveral, Florida. You're looking at the team here, responsible to Launch Director Ricky Lim, Launch Conductor Brian Childers, and Chief Engineer Hans Königsmann, and their team are overlooking systems aboard the Falcon 9 rocket and the Dragon spacecraft. And in Houston, Texas, Mission Control, the Mission Control Center, you're looking at the International Space Center, or the International Space Station Flight Control Room. This team will be monitoring the Dragon spacecraft once we lift off today, and will be overseeing the rendezvous and proximity operations and ultimately the grapple of Dragon by the space station crew on Friday morning. NASA television coverage will begin around 5 a.m. for a 7 a.m. grapple. And meanwhile, in California, Hawthorne, California, the SpaceX Mission Control Center flight controllers will be doing much the same, monitoring the Dragon systems after liftoff and helping to ensure a successful rendezvous with the International Space Station on Friday. Everything remains go, no technical issues, weather is green. Liftoff is targeted for 4:10:41 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Falcon Launch Control. This is Falcon launch control at T-minus 32 minutes, 2 seconds, and counting. The Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft continue to display no concerns. There are no technical issues whatsoever. Weather across the board continues to be green. The Dragon spacecraft will be headed toward a meeting with the International Space Station. The space station is a space laboratory. After a number of years of construction, it's now operational. Experiments are being sent up on a regular basis from Kennedy Space Center preparatory work out to Space Launch Complex 40, into the Dragon spacecraft, and off the Earth. Off the Earth for the benefit of those of us on Earth. One of the experiments flying today will be Osteo4, which studies the effects of microgravity on the function of osteocytes, which are the most common cells in bone. These cells reside within the mineralized bone and can sense mechanical forces or the lack of them, and it allows scientists to analyze changes in the physical appearance and genetic expression of mouse bone cells in microgravity. Osteo4 is the second National Institutes of Health selected payload to the International Space Station. BRIC-21 analyzes microbes to identify the suite of stress responses induced by exposure to spaceflight and simulated microgravity, and determine viability, resistance levels to a battery of antibiotics, and rates of spontaneous mutation to antibiotic resistance in microbes. The space station also is a technology development testbed for deep space exploration. The station really is critical to our journey to Mars. Veggie hardware validation test, or Veggie-1, provides lighting and nutrient supply for a space garden supporting a variety of plant species that can be cultivated for educational outreach, fresh food, and even recreation for crew members on long-duration missions. And Veggie will be returning home from the station. The space station also is a global partnership model for future exploration beyond the Earth. On this mission, there are experiments and research heading to the space station from the United States, Italy, Japan, Canada, and Switzerland. And with CASIS and other commercial payloads, in addition to our commercial resupply partners, SpaceX and Orbital, NASA is growing a commercial marketplace in space, working with these commercial partners. And with Earth Day approaching on April 22nd, the International Space Station is part of a fleet of Earth remote sensing platforms to develop a scientific understanding of Earth systems and its response to natural or human-induced changes, and to improve prediction of climate, weather, and natural hazards. There are multiple science instruments aboard the International Space Station that are studying the Earth every day. The plant growth experiments can help us grow crops more efficiently here on Earth, and water recycling technology aboard the station can provide clean water on Earth. So the International Space Station, a vibrant research laboratory 365 days a year, and enhanced even further now by the one-year mission with Scott Kelly and Mikhail Kornienko. SpaceX CRS-6 about to head to the space station 28 minutes from now. This is Falcon Launch Control. This is Falcon launch control at T-minus 26 minutes, 25 seconds and counting. Once again, the Falcon 9 rocket at Launch Complex 40 on Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Occasionally you'll see ice showering down from the rocket stack. It is nothing to be concerned with. It's normal on a humid day in Florida with a temperature of 80 degrees and super cold liquid oxygen being pumped into the two stages of the Falcon 9 rocket and gaseous oxygen venting overboard. We're approaching the final minutes of the countdown today. Once again, weather completely green, no constraints at all, no technical issues being worked by any of the teams at this time. Shortly, SpaceX launch conductor Brian Childers will poll controllers at the Launch Control Center in Cape Canaveral to ensure that they will be ready to enter the terminal count. Once again, no issues are being worked. We're at T-minus 25 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control. This is Falcon Launch Control at T-minus 23 minutes, 28 seconds and counting. The terminal control in Hawthorne, California. Launch Director Ricky Lim will give a final go for launch, again at T-minus 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the T-minus 2 minute mark, the Air Force Range Control Officer will confirm that the physical safety of the launch area and Eastern Range are in good shape and will give a go. 1 minute before launch, the flight computer will be activated. 55 seconds away from liftoff, the launch pad water deluge system will be activated, which helps to suppress the acoustic waves that radiate from the engine plumes to counter the effective vibration on the rocket. There are 53 water nozzles set low on the launch pad that provide a curtain of water flowing at 30,000 gallons a minute. And then just 3 seconds before launch, all 9 Merlin engines of the first stage are commanded to ignite. And at T0, the rocket computer commands the launch mount to release the vehicle for flight, and the Falcon 9 will lift off, putting out over 1.3 million pounds of thrust. That will begin the 3-day journey of Dragon to the International Space Station with a rendezvous scheduled for Friday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Once again, NASA television coverage scheduled to begin at 5 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. No technical concerns are being worked. The entire remains green. Radar, there are no showers within the 10 nautical mile vicinity and nothing that appears to be imminent. We're at T-minus 21 minutes and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control. T-minus 20 minutes and counting. The voice circuits connecting the Launch Control Center in Cape Canaveral with Hawthorne.
On the countdown that technical team has been pulled and is ready to proceed into terminal count. There are no open LCCs at this point in time, and on the warning system, I do expect 6 erroneous warnings in the terminal count. Tracking no anomalies, good to go. Copy LCE.
Chief Engineer Hans Königsmann briefing Launch Director Ricky Lim that there are no technical issues being worked, no anomalies being worked. All the voice circuits have been very quiet, which signifies generally that there are no concerns being worked. Weather remains green. We're coming up on the T-minus 19-minute mark. T-minus 19 minutes and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control.
DE on the countdown net, can you set the warning phase to terminal count?
Setting the warning phase to terminal count. Complete.
T-minus 18 minutes and counting. No issues being worked. The Falcon rocket standing proudly on the launch pad at Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida, with Dragon atop, is 207.8 feet tall and 12 feet in diameter. The Dragon is 14.4 feet tall, 12 feet in diameter also. And when in orbit with its solar arrays fully deployed, it measures 54 feet wide. The 9 engines of the Falcon 9 rocket, when lit at T0, will generate a combined thrust of 1.3 million pounds. Shortly thereafter, as it climbs through the atmosphere, the thrust will increase to 1.5 million pounds. 17 minutes before liftoff, this is Falcon Launch Control. minutes and counting. SpaceX CRS-6 ready for liftoff today. There remain no weather concerns, nothing in the cone of concern, contrary to yesterday. It's a whole different weather picture today. The east everything remains go. T-minus 15 minutes, 10 seconds and counting.
T-minus 15 minutes. All personnel stand by for the final poll at T-minus 13 minutes.
This is Falcon Launch Control.
T-minus 14 minutes.
Launch conductor Brian Childers giving a time hack and preparing to conduct his poll in about 1 minute. Launch Weather Officer Mike McAleenan, very optimistic. Blue skies reported by the launch team and by the Launch Weather Officer, expecting no weather concerns within the remainder of the count. Weather should not be an impediment to launch today.
FTS.
FTS go.
Prop. Prop go. AVI.
AVI go.
GNC.
GNC go.
Ground.
Ground is go.
VC.
VC go.
GC.
GC go.
RC.
RC go.
OSM.
OSM go.
ROC.
ROC go.
CE.
CE is go.
MD.
MD is go.
LD verify go to initiate terminal count.
Go for initiate terminal count.
All stations report go. Weather is
Proceeding
go.
with terminal count in countdown master.
The terminal countdown officially begins at T-minus 10 minutes. No concerns, no weather issues. Go for launch. Falcon 9 and Dragon ready to make their way to the space station beginning today at 4:10 and 41 seconds p.m. Eastern Time.
BC, start the terminal count auto sequence, set to start at T-minus 10 minutes.
It is started.
DC, start the terminal count auto sequence, set to start at T-minus 10 minutes.
Copy started.
T-minus 11 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. T-minus
If a hold
11
is called
minutes.
from this point forward, the terminal count auto sequence will be aborted. Indicate an abort or hold condition by saying hold, 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 on the primary countdown net. In this event, the VC will immediately abort the idle sequence. The VC shall not abort the idle sequence after T-minus 10 seconds, and operators shall not call a hold after T-minus 10 seconds. If a hold is called, all operators proceed to the terminal count abort steps in section 10.64.
T-minus 10 minutes, 20 seconds and counting, and everything remains go.
Attention all personnel, stand by to pick up the count. T-minus 10 minutes and counting on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. VC announces the auto sequence has started.
Terminal count auto sequence has started.
GCVC stand by on FireX.
Standing by. Standing by.
LD starts tracking camera video recorders.
Started. Spin and T-tab final setup started.
OSM set launch enable to flight.
Flight. Stage 1 engines chilling in.
Terminal count auto sequence has started for both the Falcon 9 and Dragon spacecraft. T-minus 9 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. T-minus 9 minutes. Everything is go aboard the Falcon 9 rocket, Dragon spacecraft. Weather is green. It's a beautiful day for launch. The crew aboard the International Space Station eagerly awaiting the arrival of Dragon on Friday. T-minus 8 minutes and 30 seconds and counting.
T-minus 8 minutes.
Everything remains go. The voice circuit's extremely quiet. No issues are being worked.
Stage 2 FTV motions.
T-minus 7 minutes, 30 seconds and counting.
Stage 1 heaters closing out.
T-minus 7 minutes.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 heaters ending. Everything's going by the book and by the timeline. 6 minutes, 44 seconds and counting.
Stage 2 heaters closing out. Vehicle switching to internal power. TVC bleed stage 2 has started.
Both Falcon 9 stages will be switched to internal power. T-minus 6 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. Tanks on the ground being pressurized in preparation for the strong back retract. Controllers at the
T-minus 6 minutes.
Hawthorne Mission Control Center the SpaceX Mission Control
Tanks
Center in
pressing for
Hawthorne,
strong back retract.
ready for flight.
Hydraulic cradle open sequence has started.
More ice raining down from the vehicle. Not a technical concern at all, as the strong back is being retracted.
RP1 bleed, stage 1 starting.
Coming up on T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
T-minus 5 minutes.
The strong back that provides connections for ground systems about to be retracted away from the Falcon 9 rocket.
RP1 bleed, stage 2 starting. TVC motions on stage 2.
Cradle's fully open, strong back is retracting.
Thrust vector control, motion on stage 2 engine is occurring, and you can see that the strong back is retracting away from the Falcon 9 rocket as we approach the 4-minute mark. Everything remains go.
T-minus 4 minutes.
Stage 2 tanks venting.
PNC confirms good stage 2 TVC motion.
You can see the stage 2 vent lines venting gaseous oxygen as expected. T-minus 3 minutes, 30
Strong back
seconds
fully
and
retracted.
counting. And the strong back has been fully retracted. Standing by for the flight termination system to transfer to internal power.
FTS is on internal power. FTS is armed.
And the flight termination system is armed. Approaching T-minus 3 minutes.
T-minus 3 minutes.
Lock load closeout starting. MVAC igniter purges.
At T-minus 2 minutes, 30 seconds, SpaceX Launch Director Ricky Lim will verify
Stage 2
go for
helium fill
launch.
closing out.
LD, verify go for launch.
SpaceX Falcon 9 and Dragon are go for launch.
Ricky Lim
Stage 1
confirms
tanks pressing
go
for
for
flight.
launch.
Vehicles in self-line.
Standing by for the range control officer to verify the range is go for launch.
Rock, verify range go.
This is the Rock, range green.
Copy.
Good news, the range is go, no technical issues, less than 2 minutes till launch.
Stage 1 helium fill closing out.
T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Vehicle self-line is complete.
Standing by for the flight computer to go to internal power. Approaching the 1 minute mark.
Vehicles in auto idle.
T-minus 1 minute. BC and DC, verify F9 and Dragon are in startup.
F9 is in startup.
Dragon is in startup.
Falcon 9 and Dragon in startup mode, ready for
Stage
launch.
2 tanks pressing for flight. The flight computer has control of the vehicle.
The water deluge system beginning to operate. 36 seconds away from launch.
T-minus 30.
At T-minus 3 seconds, the engine controller commands the engine ignition sequence to start.
T-minus 20. Nine, 8, 7, 6,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And souls from Earth for the International Space Station, carrying Dragon and new science for the one-year crew. Flight, all systems are go for the Falcon 9. Approaching the 1 minute mark. One minute into flight. Standing by for the Falcon to go supersonic, 1 minute 10 seconds after liftoff. And the Falcon 9 is supersonic. Falcon has now passed through the maximum dynamic pressure, max Q. The next major milestone, first stage engine shutdown, about 2 minutes and 38 seconds into flight.
MVAC is chilling in. T plus 2 minutes. Altitude 32 kilometers. Speed 1 kilometer per second. Downrange distance 13.5 kilometers.
30 seconds from first stage engine cutoff. Standing by for main engine cutoff.
MECO 1.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed. Good luck, stage 1.
See the stages separating.
And we have MVAC ignition.
Standing by. The single Merlin vacuum engine igniting on the
3
second
minutes.
stage.
Altitude 86 kilometers. Speed 1.9 kilometers per second. Downrange distance 63 kilometers.
Standing by in 15 seconds for the Dragon's protective nose cone to jettison. Three minutes, 50 seconds into the flight of Falcon, carrying the Dragon spacecraft toward a rendezvous with the International Space Station on Friday morning.
Stage
propulsion still nominal.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 power buses are nominal. Solid telemetry lock on both stages.
Acquisition of signal at Bermuda ground station.
We have stage 1 boost back startup.
Four minutes, 40 seconds into flight. The SpaceX second stage engine continues to perform normally, taking the Falcon 9 and Dragon away from the limb of the Earth.
T plus 5 minutes. Altitude 165 kilometers. Speed 2.56 kilometers per second. Downrange distance 221 kilometers. Vehicles following the nominal.
We have stage 1 boost back shutdown.
Minutes 30. Everything normal. Second stage engine cutoff.
New Hampshire acquisition of signal.
Now processing the signal through a New Hampshire tracking site. 6 minutes into the flight.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 power buses are nominal. Solid telemetry lock on both stages.
Six minutes, 35 seconds after launch. Everything remains go.
Stage 1 entry burn has started.
Stage 2 propulsion still nominal.
Mission
Stage 1
elapsed
entry
time of
shutdown.
7 minutes.
Stage 1 FTS has been saved.
T plus 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Altitude 205 kilometers. Speed 4.4 kilometers per
Stage 2
second. Downrange
FTS
distance
saved.
530 kilometers.
Seven minutes, 43 seconds into flight. Team of flight controllers at
Stage
the
1 is transonic.
SpaceX Mission Control Center in Hawthorne, California, following the flight. A little under 2 minutes away from second stage engine cutoff.
Stage 2 propulsion still nominal.
Stage 1 landing burn has started.
8 minutes, 20 seconds into flight.
Flight at LOS.
Just under a minute away from second stage engine cutoff.
Second stage is in terminal guidance. T plus 9 minutes, altitude 208 kilometers, speed 6.5 kilometers per second, downrange distance 830 kilometers.
About 30 seconds away from second stage engine cutoff. Everything performing as planned on the second stage burn from the Falcon 9, delivering Dragon into space.
And we have SECO 1.
And we have second stage engine cutoff. Right by the clock.
Cape LOS.
Acquisition of signal in Newfoundland, Canada.
Standing by for Dragon separation in 10 seconds.
Dragon deploy confirmed.
And a great view of the Dragon spacecraft departing the Falcon 9 second stage on its way to the International Space Station with the solar array deploy upcoming in about 2 minutes. Live view from Mission Control Center in Houston, Texas, where flight controllers in the International Space Station Flight Control Room watching the progress of Dragon, flying on its own, beginning its rendezvous profile to the International Space Station with a grapple planned for Friday morning at 7 a.m. We're standing by for solar array deploy and confirmation of such. Once the solar arrays have deployed, the Dragon will begin a carefully choreographed series of Draco thruster firings to reach the space station Friday. Back looking at a live shot of Dragon. And the solar arrays are being deployed. After a picture-perfect liftoff from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida, the Falcon 9 rocket delivers its precious cargo of Dragon into space, and the twin solar arrays unfurling as planned, helping to provide power to the Dragon spacecraft to power the Draco thrusters and maneuver the spacecraft to the International
New
Space
Hampshire
Station.
lost the signal.
lots of applause and hand waving. A successful delivery of the Dragon spacecraft to space. Congratulations, the entire SpaceX team. The Falcon 9 rocket performed flawlessly. Dragon is on its way. The Dragon has spread its wings and is soaring toward the International Space Station. Dragon arrives in the vicinity on Friday morning. NASA television coverage will begin at 5 a.m. for an expected grapple at about 7 a.m. Eastern Time. You can follow the successful launch of Falcon 9 on the Commercial Resupply Services 6 mission to the International Space Station. This is Falcon Launch Control.
Eight, 7, 6,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. The Falcon soars from its perch toward the International Space Station, carrying Dragon and new science for the one-year crew. Approaching the 1 minute mark. One minute into flight. Standing by for the Falcon to go supersonic 1 minute 10 seconds after liftoff. And the Falcon 9 is supersonic. Falcon has now passed through the maximum dynamic pressure, max Q. The next major milestone, first stage engine shutdown, about 2 minutes and 38 seconds into flight.
MVAC is chilling in. T plus 2 minutes. Altitude 32 kilometers. Speed 1 kilometer per second. Downrange distance 13.5 kilometers.
30 seconds from first stage engine cutoff. Standing by for main engine cutoff.
Miko 1.
Miko.
Stage separation confirmed. Good luck, stage 1.
See the stages separating.
And we have MVAC ignition.
Standing by. The single Merlin vacuum engine igniting on the
3
second
minutes.
stage.
Altitude 86 kilometers. Speed 1.9 kilometers per second. Downrange distance 63 kilometers.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. The Falcon soars from its perch toward the International Space Station, carrying Dragon and new science for the one-year crew.
Seven, 6,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. The Falcon soars from its perch toward the International Space Station, carrying Dragon and new science for the one-year crew. Seconds into flight, all systems are go for the Falcon 9. Approaching the 1 minute mark. Minute into flight. Standing by for the Falcon to go supersonic 1 minute 10 seconds after liftoff. And the Falcon 9 is supersonic. Falcon has now passed through the maximum dynamic pressure, max Q. The next major milestone, first stage engine shutdown, about 2 minutes and 38 seconds into flight.
And back is Julian. T+2 minutes, altitude 32 kilometers, speed 1 kilometer per second, downrange distance 13.5 kilometers.
30 seconds from first stage engine cutoff. Standing by.
And we have MVAC ignition.
Standing by. The single Merlin vacuum engine igniting on the second
minutes,
stage.
Altitude 86 kilometers, speed 1.9 kilometers per second, downrange distance 63 kilometers.
Standing by in 15 seconds for the Dragon's protective nose cone to jettison.
Six,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. The Falcon soars from its perch toward the International Space Station, carrying Dragon and new science for the one-year crew. Seconds into flight, all systems are go for the Falcon 9. Approaching the 1 minute mark. One minute into flight.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. The Falcon soars from its perch toward the International Space Station, carrying Dragon and new science for the one-year crew. Seconds into flight, all systems are go for the Falcon 9. Approaching the 1 minute mark. Minute into flight. And the Falcon 9 is supersonic. Falcon has now passed through the maximum dynamic pressure, max Q. The next major milestone, first stage engine shutdown, about 2 minutes and 38 seconds into flight. Two, 1, and liftoff. The Falcon soars from its perch toward the International Space Station, carrying Dragon and new science for the one-year crew. Seconds into flight, all systems are go for the Falcon 9. Approaching the 1 minute mark. Minute into flight. Standing by for the Falcon to go supersonic 1 minute 10 seconds after liftoff. And the Falcon 9 is supersonic. Falcon has now passed through the maximum dynamic pressure, max Q. The next major milestone, first stage engine shutdown, about 2 minutes and 38 seconds into flight.
And back is Julian. T plus 2 minutes. Altitude 32 kilometers. Speed 1 kilometer per second. Downrange distance 13.5 kilometers.
30 seconds from first stage engine cutoff. Standing by for main engine cutoff.
Miko 1.
Miko.
Stage separation confirmed. Good luck, stage 1.
See the stages separating?
And we have MVAC ignition.
Standing by. The single Merlin vacuum engine igniting on the
3
second
minutes.
stage.
Altitude 86 kilometers. Speed 1.9 kilometers per second. Downrange distance 63 kilometers.
Standing by in 15 seconds for the Dragon.
Six,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. The Falcon soars from its perch toward the International Space Station, carrying Dragon and new science for the one-year crew. Seconds into flight, all systems are go for the Falcon 9. Approaching the 1 minute mark.
Hi, I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you're watching NASA TV. Is it finally in HD? Did they guys finally do that?